eventually may make a comeback. Number 10 is the woolly mammoth. Their closest living relative is the Asian elephant, and out of all the animals wiped out by the Ice Age, they were the last survivor. An isolated population held out on Wrangel Island north of Siberia until only 4,000 years ago. What makes them different from other elephant genus? Well, they were elephants, but with bigger curved tusks, and they were covered in brown, black, or blonde fur. Aside from that, they're pretty similar to the homies running around South Africa, seeing as the adult male woolies weighed 12,000 pounds, and so do the African elephant males nowadays. Because mammoths overlapped with humans by 1,000 years, they were hunted for meat and clothing. Experts think that climate change coupled with this hunting is what closed the curtains on this species, but the rest assured, the American government is here to fund some Jurassic Park type of science because that always leads to great things. Not kidding! The CIA is the biggest investor in Colossal Biosciences, a company that wants to bring back woolly mammoths and Tasmanian tigers from extinction using DNA editing. It may sound like science fiction, and it kinda is, because there's no true way to bring back the woolly mammoth as was tens of thousands of years ago. However, scientists can insert cold-resistant characteristics into the DNA sequences of modern elephants using something called CRISPR, C-R-I-S-P-R, genetic scissors that can cut, paste, and replace specific gene sequences into an organism's DNA, making them genetically similar to woolly mammoths. The resulting creature wouldn't be a mammoth per se, rather it would be a proxy animal that's more like an elephant with mammoth-like characteristics. Naturally, the CIA is less interested in reviving ancient beings than it is in the underlying genetic engineering technology that Colossal intends to develop, and to keep the US a step ahead from competing nations that may also be interested in reading, writing, and altering genetic code. Critics have warned that even if a company is able to engineer a healthy proxy mammoth, the mammoth's natural habitat no longer exists, and even if it did, genetic code can't teach an animal how to thrive in an unfamiliar ecosystem. Then, of course, some scientists and regular folk alike are also arguing that the money spent on de-extinction projects could go much further if it was just applied to the conservation of living animals. The topic of DNA proxies will come back in a later point in the video with another beast, but we'll take a break for number 9 and instead talk about the American cheetah. I'm convinced if this animal lived today, it would be associated with mascots, American machismo, and that good old American pride. Unfortunately, this stunning and powerful animal went extinct with the other megafaunas around 12,000 years ago. Whether it's from climate change, fewer prey animals, human hunting, or a culmination of all three, we aren't sure. These bad boys were wickedly fast, having the slim proportions of a cheetah and the speed adaptation features of a short muzzle and little ears as seen on snow leopards. They preyed on mountain goats and sheep on cliffs and rocks, most likely stalking them until they were close enough to use a turn of speed to bring their prey down. They also chased down fauna such as pronghorn antelopes. There's actually a running, unintentional pun, scientific theory that the American cheetahs are responsible now for the astonishing speed of these antelopes, which run at 65 miles per hour, something no known living predators of theirs can match. Consequently, scientists think the speedy American cheetahs preyed on pronghorn antelopes in the past, and that's why they genetically adapted to run so fast.
Number 8. Plesiosaurus. Ah yes, the plesiosaurus. A genus of extinct, very large marine reptile that lived during the early Jurassic period. It is known by nearly complete skeletons from the waters and rocks in England. It is known for its small head, long and slender neck, broad turtle-like body, short tail, and 2 pairs of large paddles for limbs, and is apparently the legendary, the one and only, Loch Ness Monster. Cue the bagpipes. The first complete skeleton of a plesiosaurus was discovered by paleontologist and fossil hunter Mary Anning in Jurassic Age rocks December 1823. Plesiosaurus are moderate size compared to what it was swimming around them at the time, usually only about 5 meters in length, and about 500 pounds. They had the head like a big pit bull, and the teeth like a big pit bull. They fed mainly on clams and snails. Okay, this is like a medium scary now, all of a sudden.
Number 7. The great auk. Once thriving in colonies off North Atlantic coasts, the great auk would grow 30 inches long, which isn't too scary, but hear me out. It had tiny wings that would only be used to swim. They were only 13 centimeters long. Kinda cute, but Again, hear me out. They were small and jarring to look at. I mean, if this thing was coming at me today, I'd certainly have a rough time. But thankfully for hungry sailors, the great auk was greatly defenseless. Yeah, oops, sorry, we got a little snacky. Around the 1500s, European fishermen discovered this perfect area for hunting, and it just happened to be where most, if not all, of these great auks were living and thriving. Yeah, Newfoundland looked like the iceberg in Club Penguin. It was just like, stacked, just looking real good. Now the iceberg in Club Penguin is gone, as are these guys, so, you know, not a bad bit. Also, I'm broken inside. I miss Club Penguin, RIP. By 1950, the last 2 known specimens were hunted by a single fisherman, hunted on LD Island, just off the coast of Iceland. Scientists plan on using genetic information extracted from their fossils or preserved organs. Remember those jars of organs, those guys with the random jars of exotic bird pieces? They come in handy apparently. They plan on editing their DNA into the closest living species, which is now the razor-billed auk. So yeah, the organization Revive and Restore is behind the wheel on this one.
Number 6. Horseshoe crab. Horseshoe crabs are marine water arthropods of the family Lemuridae. Despite their name, they are not actually anything like crabs or crustaceans. Then what are they, dude? They're technically chelicerates, most closely related to arachnids like spiders and scorpions. Awesome. Like, what are we looking at here? What is this thing? Fossil records for horseshoe crabs extend back as far as 480 million years ago. Nice, thank God. Wait a second, nope, they're still around. Ha! These shelly dudes like to keep it shallow, however, in murky waters, mostly in Southeast Asia. Horseshoe crabs use hemocyanin to carry oxygen through their blood, which actually turns their blood blue due to the copper in said proteins. This feature is similar to what white blood cells do for us, and because of this, these guys are unfortunately blood harvested every year by us for medicine. Non-lethal, which involves collecting and bleeding the creature and then releasing them back into the sea. Yeah, I'd be way too scared to grab this thing. Are you kidding me? Like, I respect the animal kingdom, but like at a distance.
Number 5. Linenicus. It's not a Decepticon, it's a Linenicus. Close though. If you thought a T-Rex had tiny arms, wait till you see this little dude. Linenicus monodactylus. These guys roamed the lands of Mongolia 65 million years ago. I'm a fan of this dinosaur. Honestly, it's scary, and I get that, but I would honestly own this one as a pet. It was actually just giving the other dinosaurs the middle finger its entire life, basically, if you look at them. It had a little arm and 1 finger with 1 claw. That's what kind of situation. It was like Wolverine. It was like the chick from Wolverine, the 1 scratchy thing instead of the 3. She had the 1. Or Deadpool from the X-Men that no one liked. Also 1 blade. That one didn't work. In terms of these other monsters on this list, it's quite small, so, you know, maybe just 1 little kick to the neck, maybe you'll survive. Coming in at the size of a parrot, this little guy laid eggs and carved through everything and anything that snuck into their nest. Yeah, it was a carnivore. So, T-Rex, Velociraptor, this little guy, all coming after you. If you don't hit that thumbs up, he's gonna get his middle finger and poke you.
Number 4. The Glyptodon. Basically an ancient armadillo. Yeah. Now we're talking. With its rounded bony shell house and squat limbs, it resembles a giant dinosaur turtle, aging at between 5.3 million to 12,000 years ago. This thing was old. Glyptodon meaning grooved tooth because of its square teeth. This thing was big, 10 feet long, weighing as much as like 4,000 pounds. Like picture a Volkswagen Beetle. This giant armadillo existed in present-day North and South America. Though the Glyptodon had a powerful tail and an armored back made of 1,000 bony plates, it likely lived a fairly peaceful existence. Vegetarian, nice smile, this thing was killing it. It mostly ate grass and never really had to even worry about getting into fights. That being said, the Glyptodon could easily defend itself. I mean, Captain America's shield for a back and a sledgehammer for a tail. It could literally Hulk smash said car. Early hunters likely stalked the Glyptodon for meat and its shell. To kill it, they had to turn it on its back, basically tipping over a car. Yeah, gotta give it up to the early humans. They were badass and strong.
Number 3, Spinosaurus. Another Jurassic Park star, and rightfully so. The largest carnivorous dinosaur of all time, even bigger than a T-Rex. Can you imagine that? I feel sick to my stomach already. 93 million years ago, they stopped terrorizing the lands of what is now Egypt and Morocco. Now, if you didn't already guess, its name translates to spine lizard, and that spine was quite long. Coming from me, like, that says a lot. The Spinosaurus would measure up to 60 feet long, and aside for its back, one of the most notable features is its 6-foot long head. Yeah, not neck, 6-foot long head. That's an Egyptian god. That's like, this is terrifying. Its mouth was similar to a crocodile's with straight, sharp teeth. He would just do the alligator smack, and then just chomp the shit out of you and yours. Paleontologists from the University of Pennsylvania believe that this guy used to swim as well. Because where the first Spinosaurus fossil was found, that used to be the Beharia Oasis in Egypt, a massive swamp. Water or land, I want nothing to do with it. Long mouth, stretch neck McGee, stinky ancient alligator breath, get out of here. Never. Turtles, not even.
Number 2, Megalania. Megalania. The Varanus priscus. This extinct species of giant monitor lizard is a part of the megafauna that inhabited Australia during the Pleistocene. It is the largest terrestrial lizard known to have existed, reaching an estimated length of 7 meters. Yeah, length of a killer whale, weighing around 5,000 pounds. Megalania is thought to have had very early and similar ecology to the modern Komodo dragon. The fossils of lizards in Australia date back around 50,000 years ago. The First Nations peoples of Australia encountered these ancient dragons, and we actually hunted these things way back. These things can sprint 3 meters a second, Taylor.
God, he's so fast.
Whenever I'm tired at the gym, I'm just gonna picture this giant lizard just like trucking behind me. From its size alone, scientists suggest it would have fed mostly upon large-sized marsupials and mammals such as the Australian lion. Oh, that's good. Yeah, this thing ate lions, dude. With its heavily built limbs and body, a large skull, a jaw full of serrated blade-like teeth, some scientists regard Megalania as the apex predator for the last thousands of years. Yeah, I'd like to think so. It's Australia too, dude. That makes it like 18 times worse. Oh yeah, and it was venomous. Of course. Of course.
And finally, number 1, Titanoboa. The worst for last. Here we go, my sweet bees. The Titanoboa was over 40 feet long. That's 2/3 of a bowling lane. In case you want to imagine it in your head. There you go. Every time you let that ball go, just think, snake, 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 still a snake. That's how long it was. It's quite horrifying. And if we were born 58 million years ago, we'd have to avoid being eaten by this thing. Again, we grew up watching Anaconda, okay? We know how scary these things can be, especially when Angelina Jolie's dad's running the ship. He doesn't know the maps well, he's gonna take it into a swampy area. Snake's gonna come out, ruin the day. Paleontologists found this beast recently. Its fossil was excavated back in 2004, believe it or not, in Colombia near Lake Maracaibo. But it wasn't until 2009 where it was publicly described. Yeah, it took them 5 years to be like, should we tell them? I don't know, why should we? I mean, do we have to? So far, we only have the remains of 30 adult Titanoboas. That's 29 too many, if you ask me. I say we, like ourselves have one? No, we don't have it. Imagine that, I'd be sick. Even people who have snakes as pets, I'm never gonna visit. Sorry, you're alone for the holidays this time. Just you and your snake with a human name for some reason. Enjoy it. He doesn't bite. I'm like, cool. I still don't like him. Number 10, the walking worm. Okay, this was my nickname back in high school. Nice, good to be back. This one sounds nice. Earthworm Jim, Gumby, I got them all. Just a walking, lanky worm dude. Meet the Hallucigenia fortis, named by Simon Conway Morris back in 1979. Conway Morris named it Hallucigenia fortis because of its bizarre and dreamlike quality. Sure, art's subjective, I guess, to each their own. There were over 109 specimens of these strange aquatic creatures, and they ranged in size from half a centimeter to 3 centimeters long. Now, number 10 on our list, okay, gotta start small, not too large, and since it was an invertebrate, it lacked a spine. Just like me, no spine, you know, just all worm. Just all air, like an inflatable person. Defining features of the walking worm, as its name suggests, were these tentacles that protruded out from the body. It had spikes that it maybe and probably walked on. How terrifying is that? And in 2015, scientists realized where its head was. Yeah, its real head. We thought a fossilized stain was its head for like 35 years, and then in 2015, we found its real head, and it looks like it's grinning almost, with 2 eyes. Dare I say worse than the stain? Let's stop looking.
Number 9, the big fin squid. From the Magnapinidae family, the big fin squid, or as I like to call it, this ocean alien with shoulders and elbows, belongs to a group of rarely seen cephalopods with a distinctive morphology, meaning that they're really weird looking and really rare. The first record of us catching and looking at this thing comes from 1907 in the Azores, but due to the damaged nature of the find, little information could be actually extracted. It just looked like a piece of wet crinoline pulled out of a lake. During the 80s, 5 specimens were found in the Atlantic and Pacific, so eventually the creature found a place amongst the books as its own species, entering the Magnapinidae, or squids. So it's not actually a squid, but like a third cousin. This thing looks like it crashed here on an asteroid, doesn't it? The arms are huge and held perpendicular to the body, creating the illusion of arms and elbows, giving it its trademark alien figure. Some of these things are longer than 10 meters too. That's like a school bus. These things are definitely living under the ice on Jupiter. I'm just gonna say it. I said it.
Number 8, dire wolves. In height of that new Game of Thrones show coming out, can't wait, here we go. Let's talk about some Westeros animals, because these ones were real. Dire wolves. About 10,000 years ago, dire wolves were still a thing. We could have owned these as pets. Would have been so scary, but I would have liked it. Canis dirus comes in at around the same size as a gray wolf, so it's not a mega wolf with 3 heads or anything insane, but it did weigh a lot more, because it was eating a lot more, yeah. Their jaws were much stronger, so crushing animal bones wasn't a problem. And they would actually hunt down and eat horses. Yeah, how terrifying is that? If I saw that, I would cry so much. After studying their teeth, that was their go-to snack, turns out. Nice. Currently, if you're in the market for seeing 400 dire wolf skulls, head to the Page Museum in Southern California. Yeah, they found hundreds of thousands of skulls in the tar pits. Imagine that. Oh, what is this? Thousands of skulls. Damn, thought it was treasure. Number 7, the devil frog. Catching frogs is a great way to pass the time as a kid, or as an adult who's just, doing his own thing at the cottage. But 68 million years ago, if you saw a frog, you would have to run away immediately. It was bad news, especially if it was the devil frog. The devil frog would leave you without a nose. Yeah, it was got a big chomp. Hear that? It was a lot louder than that. Probably I can see it spiking up, that's so stupid. It was a lot bigger than frogs today, as most of these things are. It was on average the same size as a beach ball, and they lived on the island of Madagascar. Sounds like fun, but it wasn't at all. They thrived there because no theropod dinosaurs could get there, you know what I mean? And its bite is similar to a wolf or tiger, so really nothing wanted to mess with it. It's like, yeah, have Madagascar, enjoy it. We're not gonna try and with you. Recently, however, researchers found a fossil of the devil frog, and they believe it once had spikes and a turtle-like shell. Yeah, as if the devil frog couldn't get any cooler and or scarier. Now we know they had spikes. Throw in spikes as well, like it's a Mario dinosaur. Right now, currently, we have the horned frog, which is a lot smaller, but even after this many million years of evolution, its jaw is also remarkably strong. It'll still take off your finger, little guy. Much smaller, but still a bite. Number 6, Mega Piranha. Whew, talk about a bite. Here we go. Mega Piranha sounds like a Marvel Comics villain from the 70s. Is this real? Please tell me these weren't real. Growing up, I thought piranhas would be way more of an issue, to be honest. I haven't ran into any of those, and I'm not complaining. That sounds terrifying. Mega Piranhas, back in the day, for starters, they were much bigger than today's piranhas. They came in at about 1 meter long. They ruled the waters surrounding Argentina, so 6 million years ago, you wouldn't be taking any late night skinny dips, that's for sure. Its bite force was 50 times its own weight, which is scary for a 30-pound fish. Yeah, all that math, it's a little jarring, isn't it? Its bite can out-chomp Megalodon, who I may or may not mention in a little bit. Even today, the word piranha instills fear. Our modern day black piranha weighs 2 pounds, but its razor-sharp teeth and its bite force is still so deadly. Also, they've made way too many piranha movies. They gotta stop. Piranha 3D, 4DX, Piranha moving chairs, Mist. I don't know, they're doing way too much movie theaters. They have a thing now, it's called smell-o-vision or something, where you watch a movie and you can smell the scene, which is odd. Imagine watching the human centipede and smell-o-vision. Number 5, Arthropleura. These creepy crawlies translate to jointed ribs. That's what their name means, jointed ribs. That's lovely, there we go. Arthropleura were these gigantic millipedes. Yeah, they would grow up to 6 feet long. Sorry, Jen, I forgot about these ones. These are kind of bugs. It was the largest known invertebrate ever. It ruled all over the arthropods, so any other spider, insect, crustacean, you name it, nothing compared to this horror. Nothing compares to you, 6-foot millipede, yuck. They roamed the land during the Paleozoic period. They would crawl around at much higher speeds than today's millipedes, which is still so fast, way too fast, and they ate any decomposing organic matter. So no, they wouldn't gobble you up if you went back in time. The reason all these monster bugs got so large, by the way, was because 300 million years ago, oxygen made up 30% of the air, whereas now we're only sucking in 21%. Yeah, we got that dirty hand-me-down air. But also, we have smaller bugs, so I'm not complaining too hard. Number 4, Epicyon. Much more than just a dog, these extinct canines were known as bone-crushing dogs. Awesome, let's not get these as pets, I guess. They would come in at around 5 feet long, greatly resembling a grizzly bear, and their massive head would come in handy during hunts, because it had the, head size of a lion, and its jaw certainly played the part as well. No problem hunting, very fast. Lions, tigers, and bears all rolled up into one furry 300-pound sack of holy shit. It was made to crush, literally. Its 4th premolar was enlarged, just like some hyenas, just like bears. This thing too lived in what's now North America. They went extinct about 6 million years ago, which is pretty recent considering the other scary fossils on this list. Could you imagine camping and all of a sudden this thing comes in? Sorry, runs in? or Sprinson? I don't know, I'm out of here. Number 3, Thylacosmolus. Sounds like a Harry Potter spell, I love it. Marsupials, millions of years ago, they were a little bit weirder than our marsupials today, although they're still odd. They have the weird, scary face. Thylacosmolus, first of all, way better name than opossum. We should have kept that name, if anything. These guys back then looked like saber-toothed tigers, but it's really just a cousin to marsupials today. Its name translates to terrible pouched knife, awesome nickname, and it used to live in what's now South America. Elmer Riggs discovered the remains of such a beast in the 1920s, but only recently we have now figured out it wasn't related to a cat. Although, looking at it, you're like, I don't know, it looks a little similar. Its teeth are intimidating, don't get me wrong, but this was just a big marsupial, and it's an apossum, or an opossum, or bee-possum, I don't know, I've lost count. Number 2, there is no Saurus. There is no Saurus, not anymore, thankfully. No, they've been dead for 75 million years, for sure gone. We love that, there we go. There is no Saurus anymore. That sounds weird to say. They were also known in history as the reaping lizard, and it was first discovered in 1948. And these guys could grow up to 10 meters long, and they weighed about 5 tons. So yeah, like the lizard from Spider-Man, you're pretty much f***ed if you run into these. But the feature that stands out the most on this long neck raptor-looking dinosaur is its massive claws. This thing's got baseball mitts for hands. He's like Freddy Krueger. These hands are way too big for that body. It's like a sports fan just ready to catch a foul ball. This is where the Greeks got the name from. Therizo means to reap or to cut off. This was the Freddy Krueger of animals. And thankfully its choice of meals was always a salad. No, it didn't shred up any animals unless it had to in self-defense. So leave this guy alone. The first fossil was discovered in the late 1940s from a Soviet Mongolian fossil expedition, and they found the claws first, and for 10 years they had no idea what this belonged to. Just terrified people in a lab for 10 years straight. It wasn't until the early 50s until they found more bones, and then eventually all the pieces of the puzzle started to fit, and they realized it wasn't a turtle. Yeah, that was their first guess, just a big old turtle. Do you imagine that in the water? No fucking way. And finally, number 1, Megalodon. Yeah, speaking of water, and holy shit, yeah, this thing was very real. Louis Agassiz first discovered the Megalodon shark back in 1843. Wasn't alive though, but still scary. He was a Swiss-born American naturalist and geologist. He discovered some amazing details about glacier activity and extinct fish. He is brilliant in history. But one of those extinct fish just happened to be the tooth shark, aka the Megalodon. It lived everywhere in the world but Antarctica, really. This thing ruled our planet. It favored warm oceans, but similar to a great white, it generates heat when it moves, so it can survive most places. Yeah, not great for us, swimming in the water. The largest recorded Megalodon came in at 59 feet, about the same length as a bowling alley. So if this thing were alive today, there's no chance Jason Statham could take it. No, it's gonna take at least 3 Jason Stathams, at least. Its 7-foot wide jaws had plenty of trunk space for a swimmer, and its 5 rows of razor sharp teeth ensured said swimmer didn't get out. So I'm glad they're all dead. In a nice way, I don't know, it sounds kind of horrible to say.
Number 10. Longisquama. Longisquama is a very crucial genus of extinct reptile. I feel like I already sound like David Attenborough, dude.
The Longisquama insignis from the Middle to Late Triassic Formation.
That was not bad. That was not bad, come on. Longisquama means long scales. Insignis means small. The Longisquama insignis is notable for a number of long structures that appear to grow from its skin. Little mohawk boys, you know? These things were rad looking. They were Diapsids, which was a reptile subclass. A small group of climbing and gliding reptiles. Little jumper dudes. These guys were awesome. Little mohawk tree dudes. They lived in forests located on the supercontinent once called Pangaea. Its most notable feature is a double row of long scale-like pins running along its back, forming 6 to 8 pairs. It had 1 pair of scales for each of its pair of ribs, like knight's armor, little mini tectonic plates, mixed with feathers on top, and we get Longisquama scales. Could be rows of wolverine claws, could be rows of feathers or dragonfly-ish wings. Scientists still don't know. This little mohawk boy is sick though. Little flying dude. Those are definitely little dragonfly wings, I'm calling it.
Number 9, Carnotaurus. Okay, Kyle and I, we had a different dinosaur animated movie growing up as kids, okay? Today you got the little dinosaur, that's cute, that's great animation. Back when we were younger, we had the scary dinosaur movie. Remember that one? Where none of them talked, with the Carnotaurus guy as the villain. Yeah, that one didn't talk. It was just the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm pretty sure I walked out of that theater, didn't say a peep. And this guy didn't have to, really. Look at him. The Carnotaurus was a unit. Yeah, they thankfully disappeared 69 million years ago. Nice. They were around the same size as a T-Rex, coming in at about 29 feet long, but they were nicknamed meat-eating bulls. So, yeah, that ought to tip you why they were the villains in said movie. They would run at about 25 miles an hour. They're one of the fastest and largest moving theropods to ever live. Its arms were smaller than that of a T-Rex, so we can roast them in some capacity, okay? We got them on some, on something. But honestly, it didn't matter because this one had horns, hence the meat-eating bull alias. It was rediscovered in 1984 by Jose Bonaparte in Argentina. They've only discovered one skeleton of these things, so hopefully there weren't too many of these poking around. Yeah, Analinda took me to see this one. I'm pretty sure I walked out. It fucked me up good. The scary guy, he runs out so fast. God, he's so fast.
Number 8, Titanoboa. I actually didn't know this one existed either. There's gonna be a trend of large and scary animals here. Well, in the northeastern part of Colombia, a true beast lays still in the jungle, just waiting for a prey to dare come across its path. What would a titan boa do if prey came its way? Well, just like its smaller counterpart, it would constrict until you went for a big nap where you would then most likely be swallowed whole. Ugh. Well, at least that's what horror films would want you to think, as recent studies suggest they may have actually only had a diet of fish. If you've ever been on a school field trip to a zoo and got to pet the animals, the boa constrictor is always one of those animals. I don't know why, they always got one on hand, just in their pocket. It's weird. Wouldn't fit, but which I don't know why, because if you've ever felt the power of those muscles, well, it would be a very memorable field trip. Just try and imagine that upscaled by 10. I'm glad this one went extinct a long time ago. That's too big of a snake. Too much power. Too much.
Number 7, Basilosaurus. When I hear the word basil, I think of a lovely smelling herb. Or I think of old Basil, a kind old man, probably with white hair and a big bald spot and a mustache. Now, thanks to this video, I will think of a 65-foot long sea monster with a 3-foot head and a bite force as strong as a T-Rex. Whales have been around for a heck of a long time, and they have had many different ancestors and cousins. All of them were different levels of odd and terrifying. Basil here was one of the earliest identified ones. It was fairly different from its modern descendants, as you can tell from these pictures. It had a longer eel-like body with that tiny head. It only weighed about 10 tons, which is odd for a whale. Being the ancestor of whales, Basilosaurus is a marine mammal, but for a long time it was actually mistaken for a marine reptile, like the mosasaur, being given the nickname king lizard, which is doubly odd because it wasn't even the biggest whale species. That would be the Leviathan killer whale. I think I remember why I'm terrified of the sea, yeah.
Number 6, saber-toothed tiger. What's scarier than a full-grown tiger? How about a fully grown tiger with teeth the size of Bowie knives? Wow. Sometimes nature is scary and makes me question reality. The saber-toothed tigers are one of those things. A saber-toothed tiger's diet consisted of large animals, so watch out woolly mammoth and maybe Ray Romano. Obviously most recognized for the protruding large canine teeth that sit outside the mouth even when closed, making for great puncture weapons, as if the large cats needed any more help hunting their prey. Coming into being around the same size as a large Siberian tiger, this is one hefty kitty, and one you wouldn't want to mess with. Fortunately for me and the club of extremely cute gentlemen who cannot run very fast, I do not have to worry about outrunning the speedy, beefy predator. Their extinction is connected to both climate change and a lack of food.
Number 5, the giant sloth. If all of your information about prehistoric giant ground sloths was gathered from watching the animated Ice Age movies, buckle up. For starters, some of these guys were as big as elephants and one of the biggest land mammals. Other versions were as big as oxen or bears, so these suckers were pretty beefy, which I'm sure Sid the Sloth would be happy to hear. They also mostly walked on all fours, although they probably did stand on their hind legs to reach the top of trees and possibly as a defensive tactic. Ice Age was somewhat correct about how they were a little odd. For example, they probably did actually waddle thanks to their giant feet. They also oddly had teeth on the sides of their mouths used for crushing plants. The giant ground sloths are unsurprisingly related to our modern day sloths, but also to anteaters and armadillos. They were mainly South American mammals, but had different versions all over the Americas from 35 million to 11,000 years ago, until around the time of the Ice Age.
Number 4, Gigantopithecus. Put your hands together if you wanna clap as I take you through this monkey rap. DK. Donkey Kong. You know what I'm saying? Great game. Although I never understood why his name is Donkey Kong. I digress. Why am I bringing up one of Nintendo's beloved mascots? Well, that's because I'm talking giant ape, baby. That's right. Gigantopithecus was a large ape that lived in Southeast Asia, some parts of China, and Vietnam. Coming in at a whopping 660 pounds, DK here would need to eat a lot of plants, which, judging by teeth and molars and other great apes, suggests he was a herbivore. At least I hope. I'm just gonna keep calling him DK because otherwise I'll be here all day with my dyslexia, but DK is most closely related to orangutans. However, 100,000 years ago, after some severe climate changes and food shortages, DK was no more, and it was game over.
Number 3. Terror bird. Such a fitting name. This carnivorous bird became the top predator in South America after the dinosaurs went bye-bye. This bird had about 25 different species, ranging from 1 to 3 meters or 10 feet in height. That's a big bird! Some species could have been scavengers, but others, oh, they were definitely apex predators. Some had big, strong, stout legs that were probably good for kicking prey or even crushing bones, with big curved claws or talons for stabby behavior. They had big skulls with bones that were fused together, unlike a lot of birds, which was probably useful for pecking things into the afterlife with their massive sharp beaks that were also likely useful for getting big, nasty, fleshy bites. Their closest living relatives in South America today take out their prey by picking it up and slamming it into the ground over and over and over and over again. So imagine that, but from a giant 10-foot angry ostrich with a giant beak. So yeah, terror bird. It's a good name.
Number 2, giant beaver. Yeah, my Aunt Flo used to have a bear-sized beaver. Too bad it ran away. Okay, all jokes aside, giant beavers, also known as castoroids. That's a strange name. First discovered in the very busy and important state of Ohio back in 1837, these fossils pop up anywhere from Toronto all the way down to Florida. Getting as large as 7 feet long and just shy of 300 pounds. This is a beaver whose dam you don't want to break. Despite how awesome the giant beavers were, they are now extinct, and despite the Hudson Bay companies or the dismay of French-Canadian fur trappers, the beaver went extinct thousands of years ago. Today we are unsure what made them go extinct. Some suggest hunting, but we're not even sure if they existed along early humans. All I know is that a tail on that bad boy would be very dangerous. Seriously, people don't think the beavers are dangerous, but you gotta be careful around them. And I salute the beaver, as it is Canada's national animal after all.
Number 1. Andrewsarchus. And here we are, Andrew's ancient relative, the Andrewsarchus. The name Andrewsarchus was given as a dedication to Roy Chapman Andrews, who I share a last name with, so maybe I'm related too. Who can say? Andrew's such a unique name, isn't it? Which is fitting because this bad boy right here was unique. Its massive 3-foot skull was very similar to a wolf's skull, but its jaw and tooth structure made it more like a mesonychid, which are related to horses and deers, but also relatives to whales and hippos. It was a giant, hoofed carnivore, like a mix between a pig and a wolf, but massive. It probably ate literally anything it could get its jaws around. It could have been anything from tinier mammals to plants and roots to giant herbivores related to rhinos. If I ran into a huge, hoofed pig wolf capable of taking down rhinos, I'd just lay down and give up. Luckily, it lived 45 to 35 million years ago in Asia, specifically the area around and near modern-day Mongolia. And Andrewsarchus did not adapt well to the changing times and didn't last as long as other ancient creatures on this list. Just like Andrew, we're still trying to figure out exactly what kind of animal Andrewsarchus was.
Number 10, the bulldog rat. Right off the bat, I want to throw up. Of course, being way larger than black rats, the bulldog rat was thankfully, last seen around 1903. We did it. We just successfully dodged these ones. The same time speedwalking was introduced to the world. Coincidence? Absolutely not. Everyone was avoiding these big hairy That's my theory. They have 2 to 3 centimeters of fat on their backs with short tails and thick hair. There's absolutely nothing holly and or jolly about the bulldog rat except for the fact that its home was that of Christmas Island in the Indian Ocean. Yeah, welcome to Christmas Island. It's not what you think. At all. They were thriving until sailors discovered the island. And with them, they brought infected black rats. So only sailors were responsible for this extinction event. Yeah, they pulled up to Christmas Island and then they released some gifts. Gifts of rats, infected rats, that now made other rats extinct. Either way, I don't like rats. Any rats, extinct or currently living. Next, number 9, Helicoprion. Perhaps one of the weirdest looking sea creatures to exist 250 million years ago. Again, yes, we dodged it. Thank God. We got a little close, but we narrowly missed it. This looks like a shark, but scientists now know that it was related to chimeras, a fish that separated from the shark family 400 million years ago. Again, dodge those too. This 25-foot long fish was first discovered by Andrei Zarpinsky in Russia back in 1889. He got the name Helicoprion because it translates to spiral saw, hence its horribly disgusting awesome mouth. This guy found teeth fossilized in a spiral formation. He must have thought that he found aliens. He must have been scratching his head for weeks. Paleontologists all agree today that this was not part of a fin, it wasn't a wacky spinal cord either, but rather this coil was teeth. Yeah, teeth coiled up attached to the lower jaw of the fish, and its grasp was the same power roughly to that of a crocodile, so you can put 2 and 2 together and now not sleep. Just like me.
Moving on, it's the mini monster for number 8, also called Habelia optata. This little shrimpy guy only ever measured up to 1.6 inches at best, but they tried their best and that's what counts. In all honesty, they kind of have a Marvel juggernaut thing going on with the massive clunky helmet head. They also have, as you can see, hundreds of lovely little mouth appendages that rip apart any prey that comes their way before shoveling the pieces inwards into its mouth hole. Nature is beautiful. The Habelia fossils are primarily found in British Columbia and on average date back 505 million years ago to the Cambrian period. You can check out some at the Royal Ontario Museum. Number 7 is the spicy dolphins. Look at that. Can't tell me that's not like a dolphin, but just spicier. We've got some turtle arms going on here. We got a shark fin, dolphin tail, swordfish mouth. Man, this thing is just a scrapbook of undersea beasts. The Ichthyosaurus evolved from around 250 million years ago from something. I don't know what the hell this was before they were this, but I know that they all went extinct about 90 million years ago. While there were certain species of this group as small as 1 foot, the group like sharks could also get massive in size, especially towards the late Triassic period. In 2018, researchers estimated that a fossilized jawbone from the UK belonged to a spicy dolphin that was more than 85 feet long, which is nearly the size of a blue whale. Number 6 is beast must have been tearing up that b-ball court because its name is the Dunkosaurus. Just kidding, it's actually the Dunkleostesaurus terrelli, but that is nowhere near cool. So, the dunk, however, was out here breaking ankles in the oceanic world, literally the size of a school bus and sometimes even 18 feet long. It used its size to truly bully its way around the Denovian period. The dunk was a super predator, with blade-like jaws for slicing through any animal it could digest despite having no teeth, kind of like how turtles do. Researchers started discovering dunk skulls in Cleveland about 150 years ago now, and at first they thought the creature was about 30 feet long, but it was a subsequent 2023 study that found the creatures were actually more like 13 feet long and just super chunky. Real thick guys. Number 5 is what I will eloquently name the WTF monster, because that's all I really had to say when I saw this thing's picture, because I don't even have words, man. This thing is properly named the Lyra apex eugenispinius, which is a super long and elaborate way to say God's most horrible of creatures. Cthulhu wishes she had something on this inglorious creation, because why have a face when you can have massive half lobster claws instead? Where did its eyes go, you may ask? So happy you did. They're somewhere? Apparently they're compounded, something commented upon by Dr. Strassfeld, part of the scientists who coined this monstrosity in 2013. Some had huge compound eyes, up to 10 times larger than the biggest dragonfly eye, befitting what must have been a highly efficient hunter. As an arthropod, this menace was not only an ancient ancestor of today's spiders, but also scorpions and crustaceans. Thank God they could only grow to be more than 3.2 feet long. I was worried they wouldn't be massive. These colossal creepy crawlers were among the world's earliest apex predators and were well equipped for the job the researchers wrote. Every monster, even the newborn babies it seems, had a hard claw-shaped appendage at the front of its head, which it used to capture and manipulate prey, and shovel it into its radiating teeth, to quote the researchers. That means that this beast's food hole was a full circle filled with 360 degrees of serrated teeth. What a joy. It looks and sounds like it was made up by a child. Number 4 is the Tully monster. Its actual name is Telemonstrum gregarium, but if I had to give it a nickname, I'd probably say reach around, because it quite literally had its mouth, I think it's its mouth, floating like 4 feet from its face. This was apparently a soft-bodied species with eyes on stalks that, as stated, give the essence of a child's demented drawing you're obliged to put on the fridge. Other than that, the fact that it had this appendage mouth claw thing, scientists really got nothing for us. These stupid looking things are so strange that researchers researchers today have had trouble agreeing on the animal's place in the tree of life and food pyramid. Whatever they were, these monsters hunted in the marine coastal environments 300 million years ago and are only found in fossils from Illinois. Next up, number 3, the appendage worms. I would actually love to call these guys by their names, but I can't. Just know it's the male appendage they were named after, meant to honor the well-endowed Greek god Priapus. These ferocious little guys were from the Cambrian period and spent their lives being some of the mightiest predators around. They had teeth lining the inside and outside of their mouth and devoured just about anything dead or alive it could get its mouth on. In 2021, a study in the Journal of Current Biology found that these animals inhabited cone-shaped shells, just like hermit crabs do, and as a result, fossils can still be found within them. The shell-dwelling male appendage worms fossils belong to the Priapaldia group, which includes their shellless living descendants. Number 2 is the most cursed-looking thing imaginable. It's naked turtles. Sir, where are your clothes? There ain't a shell in sight, it's just pure vibes with these guys. They're otherwise called the Odontoceles semistricea. These naked turtles swam around the Triassic coastal waters of China around 220 million years ago as one of the first known turtles. Michael Caldwell, biology professor from Point 2, explained the phenomenon. These most ancient turtles have got the chest piece or the plastron, but they don't have the carapace on the back, Caldwell said. So here we have an early version of turtles that are lacking a turtle shell and are still toothed. Obviously, these guys realized the key to survival was putting pants on because they are one of the only turtle species that's found shellless, and technically that means they're homeless too. And last but not least is number 1. I actually want to look at the picture again really quick before I talk about it. Yeah, because this one gets me. I can't get past it, man. Okay, so yeah. I think it's supposed to be called the Plactodonts, but I really think they fumbled an opportunity here because this is obviously the genetic predecessor of Barney, a famous species of purple dinosaur. Unlike Barney, who inhabited North America in the modern era, this watery Barney was a reptile-turtle hybrid that hung out in the Triassic era of Europe, the Middle East, and China. And shout out to my boy Michael Caldwell once again for joining the roast session by stating that these ridiculous creatures had such incredibly bad buck teeth they could have picked apples through a picket fence. Apparently they used these teeth to pluck shells and mollusks off the reefs or the ocean floor, and they had flat crushing plates at the back of their mouths for munching through the shells. The first of which is coming in at number 10. It's the Saw-5 shark. As usual, all these animals have those super sciencey hard to say names, so I'm gonna be giving them fun nicknames as we go. Its true name is the Helicoprion, which, as you can tell from photos, is also understandably called the buzzsaw shark, thanks to it looking like a circular saw and a shark had a baby. And when you mix apex predator with power tools, even the oceanic world shivers in fear sugar. This bad boy would grow to an average of 25 feet in length, which is 5 feet longer than the largest known modern great white shark. And their serrated teeth definitely implicate being carnivorous. However, there's tons of debates if the strange row of teeth sat in their mouths as shown in the pictures near the front, or if they were farther back in the mouth, which would change the meat-eating diet to softer specimens such as jellyfish. Whatever they were eating, or how, it evidently should be the diet of the century because these guys inhabited the oceans from the Devonian period for 419.2 million years ago until the Triassic period 242 million years ago. They literally somehow survived the Permian Triassic extinction, which essentially means they must have either A, lived in the deepest reaches of the ocean, or B, were smart enough to know how to make a doomsday prepper grade bunker. Next up is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's number 9, old broomstick neck. The creator was feeling real silly and fun the day he slapped this stupid thing together, so let's take a gander at what we call the Tantiostropheus hydrodotes, shall we? To quote Michael Caldwell, a professor of biological sciences and earth and atmospheric sciences at the University of Alberta, they have small heads on the front of these tiny, weird little bodies way behind this gigantic neck and are ungainly and awkward. So we have the body of what looks like Kermit the Frog supporting a neck that was 10 feet long. That's quadrupled the length of their torso. Seriously, what do you need all that neck for, buddy? It may have helped the species sneak up on ocean prey. How do you sneak up on anything when your neck enters the room 5 minutes before you do? I think this specimen would be the most noticeable creature on the ocean floor just because the other animals wouldn't be able to miss something this aft looking. Yo, is everything okay with Bill? Yeah, man, he just looks like that. Pretend you don't notice him approaching, it makes him feel better. No wonder it went extinct. But before it did, this thing lived during the Triassic period 242 million years ago. Their fossils are commonly found around Switzerland and Italy, mythology, so maybe they were the oceanic precursor to spaghetti for other predators. Who knows? And speaking of not knowing things, did you know Bumblebee regularly releases content like this video and more? So be sure to take a second to subscribe to the Hive to stay up to date.
In our number 8 spot today, we have the Basilosaurus. These guys have a name that translates to king lizard, and they are a genus of large predatory prehistoric whales that lived during the Eocene, which was approximately 41.3 to 33.9 million years ago. These guys were actually first described in 1834, which makes them the first prehistoric whale known to science. These guys were one of the largest, if not the largest of their time, and they were the top predators of their environment. They preyed on sharks, large fish, other marine animals including the dolphin-like Dorudon. Really, they were able to eat basically anything that they felt like. These guys even had teeth that were various types like canines and molars, which probably allowed these creatures to chew their food, which is different to their more modern ancestors. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Pliosaurus, another massive prehistoric creature, also not to be confused with the Plesiosaurus. I was confused in the beginning. These guys grew to be around 40 feet long and about the size of some of the whales that we would see today. These creatures are best known for their insane hunting abilities. They could move quickly and were quite strong. This effective predator skill set, coupled with their massive size, allowed them the ability to take down much larger prey, sometimes even dinosaurs. According to experts, these guys had exceptionally strong jaws. Some even believe that it might have had a bite just as powerful as a T-Rex, which is of course known for having one of the most powerful bites of any land animal. I'm just saying, these guys were definitely a top predator in their day. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Jacalopterus. Okay, I've got 3 words for you. Giant sea scorpion. Yeah, remind me to never go into the prehistoric ocean. This 8-foot long arthropod lived in the water with its gross, too large pincers and claws, and honestly, it looks like something out of the movie Alien. These guys had segmented bodies, and they're actually the largest known arthropod to have ever existed here on Earth. They had multiple specialized limbs, and some of them even had spikes, like for example, their 18-inch spiked claw that was used to snatch fish that passed by. It is said that some of these guys would crawl out of the water in order to mate and sometimes shed their outer skin, and all I have to say is imagine finding an 8-foot long molt of one of these creatures on the beach right before you jump in for a swim. You wouldn't, right? I'd swear off all water after that. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Helicoprion. Okay, listen, there are many problems with our modern world. We could sit here all day talking about them. We could even go into next week, there are so many. But here's the thing we need to realize. Things could be so much worse, and by worse, I mean that this creature could still exist. This animal existed somewhere around 250 million years ago, and while it looks more like a shark than anything else, scientists now know that it was actually a creature that is related more closely to chimeras, which are a fish that separated from the shark family about 400 million years ago. So why is this animal so scary and just terrible to look at? Well, that is due to the incredibly unsettling spiral saw formation of teeth that this creature had right on their lower jaw. Yeah, an orthodontist's dream, truly. It's also not like this creature was just born with the teeth that they had for the rest of their lives. No, of course not. They had teeth that could grow, and new teeth could even form. Imagine being in the ocean and you see a huge creature swim up to you that has 4 spiral saws for teeth. Yeah, no thanks. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Mosasaurus. During the Cretaceous period, which spanned about 145.5 to 65.5 million years ago, there was this genus of reptiles called Mosasaurus. These guys were absolutely huge aquatic reptiles that roamed throughout the waterways here on Earth. Because of their size, they became apex predators during this time, and they have been estimated to have grown to about 56 feet. At the time of their existence, it isn't exactly likely that they would have encountered any sharks that are alarmingly large like the Megalodon was, but I mean the Cretaceous period certainly had some other massive creatures that put up some pretty stiff competition. This is of course, like I mentioned, an entire genus, so there are definitely some less threatening species in the mix, but there are some in there who would have given the Meg a run for their money, should they have existed at the same time. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Leviathan. If we were to look at our ocean today, we of course would see sharks as one of the top predators that exist. I mean, some sharks are huge, and they certainly know how to hunt, but they aren't the only scary creatures roaming the oceans. Sometimes killer whales make such a grand appearance that they even scare off some of the most terrifying sharks and make them flee for incredible distances. This is something that was also seen many years ago, I mean millions of years ago, during the time of the Megalodon, and that is thanks to this gigantic creature known as the Leviathan. If you are unfamiliar, this is a now extinct genus of macroraptorial sperm whale. It is believed that they could weigh around 100,000 pounds and reach up to 57 feet in length, and it's thought that their size is what helped repel other predators while also helping them become the predator themselves. The Leviathan also had enormous teeth that reached over a foot in length, which is what gave them the title of largest bite of any tetrapod. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Kronosaurus. This Cretaceous marine reptile is one that had an elongated head, a short neck, and a stiff body that was propelled by not just one, but 2 sets of fins that helped it get through the water and through strong currents in order to capture whatever prey it was after. These guys were somewhere around 30 to 40 feet in length, and they had many long, sharp, conical teeth, with some of them being enlarged to be fangs. So yeah, I mean, what more could you want from a terrifying sea creature? Along with the fossils found of these guys, experts have been able to determine some of the stuff they ate, and it includes turtles as well as other pliosaurs, which these guys are a part of that genus, meaning they basically ate their own family. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Mauosaurus. These guys are a creature that was once very real, but thankfully are a relic of our past because they are absolutely horrifying. They are named after the Maori god Maui, who is said to have pulled the islands of New Zealand up from the sea floor, so anything named after him is of course going to be an absolute ginormous beast. The neck of this creature measured around 49 feet long, which is the longest proportionate neck of any animal. The entire creature is measured around 66 feet, so it is clear that their neck counted for quite a large portion of their body. But like, imagine a swimming dinosaur creature with a huge snake for a neck. That's kind of what these guys were like. These guys lived on Earth during the Cretaceous period, which is good news for us, but not so much for the creatures that lived at the time. Creatures would jump into the water to avoid a T-Rex, only to find this guy waiting for them. Yeah, no thanks.
Number 10, the woolly mammoth. What 2 things are big, loud, hairy, smell like Parmesan cheese, and frequent the New York area? If you said Ray Romano and woolly mammoths, then you're correct. It all comes full circle. Starting off with an easy one for you today, and folks, it's one of my favorites. A creature that's been long extinct. Comedians and primetime family sitcoms. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about woolly mammoths, the large animals that once roamed the earth. Since these are so common, I thought it would be very fun to do a tale of the tape. Standing anywhere between 2.7 to 3 meters tall in the red corner, weighing in a full 6 tons, the beast from the east, woolly mammoth! Okay, well, they weren't just found in the east, but they were big and interesting creatures, especially since this is one of the few ancient species that we've ever interacted with. Having thick skin and fur made them difficult to hunt. It would take a few blows. However, if a smaller one was taken, it would make for a lasting meal. Interesting creatures.
Number 9, Glyptodon. Take an armadillo, size that bad boy up, give it a spicy tail, take away its ability to curl up in a ball, and make it stupid looking, and you've got the 10-foot long, 1-ton Glyptodon that lived 2 million to 10,000 years ago. Now, it would be easy to mistake this guy with a turtle or a tortoise, but it was in fact a mammal. It also had a soft underbelly that any predator able to flip over this walking Volkswagen Beetle would be able to exploit. These guys were native to South America, and like I said, they actually were around for a long time, living just past the last ice age. It's believed, like with most things, us humans had a not so small part to play in their disappearance from this world. We would hunt them for food and for their shells, which evidence says ancient man used as shelter from snow and rain.
Another short-snouted animal, albeit uglier and odder, is the short-faced bear, number 8. Sorry, the giant short-faced bear. My bad. It was the largest carnivorous mammal to ever roam North America, and don't worry, just like a brown bear, it too entered a state of brainless killing machine that would tear you limb from limb. Hooray! Thank God it can also stand on its hind feet, giving the vertical reach of 14 damn feet, if not more. Good luck climbing a tree to get away. Homie's just gonna stand up and pluck you out of it. The most striking difference between modern North American bears and the giant short-faced bear was the long, lean, muscular legs. This allowed the bear to be a cursorial predator, meaning it ran after the prey for long durations and apparently averaged 40 miles per hour while doing so, before using its powerful hind legs to apparently launch its full body at you. This also means that it was the fastest bear to ever live. You know, the whole play dead or run in a zigzag thing? I'd say best move is tap out and not even try that crap. Just douse yourself in honey, cross your fingers that your fate is fast. As if this bear doesn't seem like an inescapable predator already, there's more. Combined with the large nasal cavity, it's likely that the short-faced bear used its powerful sense of smell to detect nearby carcasses as well as prey animals. Rest assured, however, this bear has no related living species. If any, the closest would be the Andean bear, the only bear species native to South America. It's a big ol' armadillo. Glyptodon is number 7, a supersized me version of its distant relative, the armadillo. Both species protect itself with a shell made of bony plates that they could retract its body into, creating a notorious wheel shape. Unlike its smaller relative, however, when the Glyptodon did that, it mimicked more of a giant stone ball from Indiana Jones than a cute little roly-poly. The armored one-ton creature likely traveled to North America from South America via the Isthmus of Panama, an alleged land bridge that connects the two Americas, said Ross McPhee, a curator of mammalogy at the American Museum of Natural History. And when it did reach North America about 2 million years ago, the Glyptodon had the Florida vacay of its dreams. Literally, the creature prospered in what's now coastal Texas and Florida. The herbivorous critter has been extinct for 10,000 years, and we aren't sure what did it. The extinction coincided with the arrival of early humans in the Americas, and while evidence suggests that these humans made use of the animal's armored shells and meat, other causes such as climate change can't be ruled out. Number 6 is another blown up version of an existing animal. It's giant beavers. Because those buck teeth didn't already look deadly enough, let's make them the size of literal cereal boxes. That would have been the case too, given that the giant beaver grew up to 125 pounds or larger. Its fossils are usually found in the Great Lakes region, and like the megalonyx, the giant beaver ventured into Alaska and the Yukon during the interglacial periods, but retreated south when temperatures dropped, McPhee said. Their fossils have been found as far as South Carolina and in the American Northeast. These animals were clumsy walkers, but strong swimmers, and probably spent most of their time in water, which obviously would restrict their ability to disperse over land and potentially contribute to their extinction, which happens towards the end of the Pleistocene. This was likely to do with the reduction and/or disappearance of their preferred habitat as climate warmed and glaciers retreated north, and to increase competition with modern beavers, whose remains have interestingly been found in the same deposits of their ancient relatives, suggesting they had similar lifestyles. However, there's no evidence that giant beavers built dams or cached food for the winter. And what's bigger than a giant beaver? Not a riddle. It's number 5, the big sloth. Today, sloths are molasses-moving tree dwellers roughly the size of a dog. Meanwhile, in the Ice Age, they were 3,000-pound bear-sized herbivores with bad attitudes. Standing, they were 12 feet but slow walkers, and some of their species even shuffled on curled ankles. This obviously explains the genesis of becoming a slow-moving tree hanger. Ground sloths, like those of today, had elongated claws which they used to dig for roots and strip leaves. Obviously, they would have been no threat to you, but seeing this creature in a monumental size would have still been horrifying. DNA analysis indicates that all extinct North American ground sloths, including the massive Harlan's ground sloth, originated in South America and migrated north along with the ancient opossums and armadillos when the alleged Isthmus of Panama emerged, at which point, to quote, most mammals migrated north to south, but sloths came the other way. In some periods, there were giant ground sloths as far as North Alaska. Fun fact, one giant sloth species, the Jefferson ground sloth, was actually named for Thomas Jefferson, who initially believed that these sloth fossils were a type of colossal cat, and he dubbed it the megalonyx. For number 4, it's cave lions. You guys have inevitably heard of saber-toothed tigers and dire wolves. If you haven't, maybe check out the past Bumblebee video entitled Top 10 Bizarre Extinct Animals You Won't Believe Existed. And while you're at it, take a second to subscribe to The Hive to see more neat sciencey videos like these ones. But have you heard of the cave lion, the largest feline that has ever roamed the earth to date? No? Learning time. These bad boys were huge, toppling scales at 800 pounds while standing 4 feet tall and 7 feet long. That makes them an extra 10% larger than the modern day lion. Their faces were a little different too, having a longer, pointier muzzle and no mane. Cave lions are close relatives of modern African lions. Unlike their modern cousins, however, these large cats adapted to extremely harsh conditions, including freezing winds and long, cold winters. Sadly, these big old kitties died out 13,500 years ago, and likely due to lack of prey animals like antelopes and wild horses, as the climate changed over from grasslands to forest. Maybe hunt a squirrel, I don't know, but whatever. No doubt human hunting played a part too, because they preyed on the same herbivores until the climate change turned their hungry attention to the cave lion. Some cool info: while we can't show the pictures, there was a mummified cave lion cub unearthed in Siberia in 2017, and a second one found close by in 2018. Respectively named Sparta and Boris, these two cubs likely died in a sudden disaster such as a mudslide or a permafrost splitting beneath their feet. They were mummified where they fell, and today the fur, skin, organs, and teeth remain almost exactly how they appeared on the day of their respective deaths. Sparta 28,000 years ago, and Boris 43,000 years ago. Sparta specifically is the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. Even her whiskers can still be seen. So far, this list has been focused on mega mammals, but what about other Ice Age species? Number 3 is the Megalania. It's pretty understandable that it was hard for cold-blooded species like reptiles to survive the frozen Ice Age temperatures across much of the globe, but fun fact for many folks that don't actually know this is that during the Ice Age, not all of the world was icy. Some places were actually still habitable. That's the only reason human beings can still even exist today, guys. One of these places was Australia, where giant reptiles ruled. This includes huge land-living crocodiles, massive snakes, demented amphibians, and the Megalania, a truly monstrous relative of the Komodo dragon, only 10 times bigger and reaching an estimated length of 22 feet. The Mega was a key land predator, seeing as it was at the top of the food chain in its habitat. This bugger could have swallowed a grown man alive without chewing. So, if it's in the perfect environment, tons of food, no climate intervention, what happened? I'm not complaining that they're gone, but it's a fair question to be curious about, and it was humans. And not humans killing them for food, as we're notoriously not the biggest fans of eating lizards. Instead, we hunted their prey exclusively to extinction, and thus the species itself. Historians and scientists alike suggest that the loss of the mega reptile predators has left Australian ecosystem out of kilter, allowing introduced mammals to reign unchecked, thus why the entire country is an episode of Zaboomafoo gone wild. Still hanging in Australia, we got number 2, the Diprotrodon. So, a huge marsupial animal. In fact, the largest marsupial to have ever lived. What is it? Don't know. It's a genus, it's so effed to the nines that the most I can tell you is it's very, 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 very distantly related to wombats and koalas. And here I was ready to guess it would have been capybara based off of appearance, but they don't have anything in common. The Dipro was really its own beast, own genus, own everything. They were an average of 13 feet long and weighed as much as 7,800 pounds, aka this thing was packing more weight than a damn minivan. And to give you some horrible perspective, the largest current marsupial, the red kangaroo, checks in at a mere 9 feet and 200 pounds. If the red kangaroo dwarfs us humans now, imagine the sights and sounds of a Dipro approaching. Don't have to worry about that now though, since humans hunted these bad boys to extinction. Dipro, forever in their own lane, has also the distinction of being the only known seasonally migrating marsupial, as it would trek in search of food and watering holes for miles at a time and settle down wherever it pleased. Their only predators were cave lions and, ironically, the Megalania. And I mentioned at the start we had another potential DNA proxy on the list, so number 1, the steppe bison. These wild bisons managed to outlast even wild horses of the day, but they ended up extinct around 10,000 years ago. Tragically, during colonization of America, in a flagrant move against the indigenous people, our modern bison and buffalo were nearly driven to the same fate. But now, instead of allocating funds towards the preservation of the currently still living species, a bunch of lunatics decided to Jurassic Park the steppe buffalo. Leading the way is Hwang Woo-suk, a former cloning expert and NEFU collaborator who was fired from the Seoul National University in Korea and only narrowly avoided jail time after faking results and breaking bioethic rules while attempting to clone embryonic human stem cells. So, this already seems super promising. Similar to the lion cub, Sparta, and Boris, in 2022, researchers in Russia completed a necropsy on an 8,000-year-old mummified steppe bison. This bison body is apparently so preserved, scientists believe it could be cloned using intact chromosomes extracted from the bison's skin, muscle, and wool, as announced on March 23rd of 2023. In my view, it is not going to be possible to clone extinct animals from tissues like this, states Love Dallin, a paleogenist, in response to the confidence of Hwang and his team. Although the tissues are exceptionally well preserved, the DNA within them is likely too degraded to be cloned. To make cloning possible, one needs needs to find intact chromosomes. But what we see even in the best specimens is that each chromosome is fragmented into millions of pieces. In my view, it's more likely that you can flip a coin and get heads 1,000 times in a row than it is to find an intact chromosome from a specimen that is thousands of years old.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the Megalodon. I am starting this list off with my favorite prehistoric sea monster, the infamous Megalodon. Megalodons are one of the largest sharks to have ever existed. They were huge, they were terrifying, they were apex predators, and they are the creatures that inspired the tales of Jaws, or the Meg. The teeth on these sharks are so large that they are 3 times larger than the teeth of a modern great white shark. With teeth that size, you can only imagine how large this shark would have been. It's pretty tough to figure out exactly why the Megalodon died out. I mean, they were one of the largest, scariest creatures who shouldn't have had any trouble getting food, but that might not be the case. Some believe it was the cooling water, others believe it was competition for food. Whatever the case, in the end, while the Megalodon is an incredible creature in history, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief that they aren't swimming around our oceans anymore. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Plesiosaurus. These guys are a prehistoric creature that was massive and grew to be about 43 feet long. They had these super long necks that basically took up like half of their body, and even though they were so massive, they had no trouble moving efficiently through the water. These creatures had 4 flippers, so our best guess as to how they swam would be sort of like a penguin. Their front limbs did most of the work, while the back ones kind of took hold of the steering. Fossils have been able to show us that these creatures gave birth to live young and are actually kind of similar to dolphins in the way that they take care of their young. It is thought that these just may be the creatures that inspired the tales of the Loch Ness Monster.
Number 8. Giant dragonfly. Dragonflies are awesome. I have a dragonfly tattoo. I had to check which arm. That's awesome. Welcome to being 28, I guess. But these sticky lads are old school, okay? Dragonflies are sweet. They were the first winged insects to ever evolve 300 million years ago. Modern dragonflies have wingspans of only 2 to 5 inches, but ancient giant dragonflies, again, as their name suggests, well, their wingspan was 2 to 3 feet. They're a lot bigger and scarier and stickier. I hope they never come back to this size. Again, like I mentioned in part 1, it's that high oxygen level that does the body good. Yeah, the Paleozoic era had these beasts hovering around because, you know, the air was too good back then. Nearly all of their head is its eye, so you're f***ed in every angle, basically. The movie Dune, if you've seen this recently, great film. The ornithopters, they're engineered to fly like a dragonfly. This is based on real life science. Engineers in real life are studying dragonflies, their flight patterns right now with their wings. Just keep them small and we're good. Study away, keep them small, please.
Number 7. The frilled shark. Chlamydos lacus ingenius, aka the frilled shark, is the extinct species of shark that once swam our oceans. Thank gosh. Well, actually kinda still does. Oh. The frilled shark is considered a living fossil, not just its age and time spent surfing the coast, due to its primitive eel-like brown body. Its snake-like jaws, 8-foot body, and the way it moves under the water are all common in ancient serpents and water creatures. Yeah, this thing's a water dragon, basically. This thing's like an eel-serpent-shark hybrid. It swims the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, usually in deep, murky water. So am I just gonna like snorkel into one of these things any day now? Good thing is that these things are really hard to find. Like, really hard. Usually caught by accident in commercial fishing nets, usually at depths anywhere between 50 and 1,000 meters. So unless you're free diving at night and have a supersonic lung span, you should be okay.
Number 6. The gastric brooding frog. I'm a big fan of frogs, except for when they, you know, hatch out of their back. I don't like that. It's arguably the worst thing I've ever seen online, and I have read it, and have had Reddit for years. These frogs would swallow its egg back in the day, and then they would hatch them out of their mouth. If you watched it backwards, you'd be like, no, stop. They all went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have somehow figured out how to implant dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. So we may just see this fancy frog make a fancy comeback. Yeah, let's just hope these ones aren't born out of their backs. Do you want to see it? I feel like you want to see it. There it is. Enjoy. You asked for it. Thumbs up for this. You know, it's life, it's nature.
Number 5, the giant sloth. Megatherium is an extinct species of ground sloth. Locals to South America, they lived between the Pliocene through the Pleistocene eras. Basically like a really long time. Yeah, this thing was big and heavy as a modern day elephant, but like sloth form. This massive beast was first discovered in 1788 on the banks of Argentina. The bones, of course, not one, Megatherium became extinct around 12,000 years ago, thank gosh, during the Quaternary extinction event, which also claimed most other large mammals in the New World. The extinction coincides with early America's settlement and the kill sites where sloths were slaughtered. I tried. Suggesting that humans were out fist-fighting these things, aiding in such extinction. Yeah, all of a sudden mammoths are like way less scary. I wonder if they moved as slow too. Like a bear the size of an elephant moving in slow motion. So I just like throw it, it's like right here. I'll just be like, there.
Number 4, Tasmanian tiger. Once native to Australia, of course the land of horrors, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. Thank the Lord. Major factors here are, as you guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. Now it's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures, also kind of terrifying, they disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. Yeah, I'm just scaring you with this one. I'm like, it's terrifying, right? They're coming back, 2024 in IMAX. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your own front yard. Are we ready for this? I'm not. I've seen a moose once. Very scary, very scary. I was going 40 miles an hour. I was like, that's it. Specimens still remain preserved in jars. Yeah, thank God for those jars. I was wondering what that was in the fridge. A Tasmanian tibia. Nice, yum. In the science world, we already have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists inserted them into a mouse fetus. Again, bold, but sure, they did it. One guy thought of that. How gross is that? The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life, only they're still lacking the DNA to fully recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, lend a helping hand for science, please.
Number 3. Dunkelostis, from Dunkel's bones, named after paleontologist David Dunkel, who discovered and studied the fossils. Ostis is Greek for bone, referring to the giant tectonic plates looking things that this thing is made up of. Being one of the largest and most powerful fish ever to swim in our waters, ever, these swimming tanks could eat pretty well anything it wanted, including other Dunkelostises. This thing was top dog. The first remains were discovered along Lake Erie cliffs. That's scary, that's like right over there. Dunkelostis could suck in and bite straight through any animal alive at the time, from the thick-shelled ammonites to the other placoderms with body armor. This thing was basically like the great-great-grandfather of any fish who eats other fish. They would even bite each other and dent their own armor. Their diet shifted from soft-bodied prey such as whales and sharks to larger armored prey such as placoderms. Basically it liked to eat the little crunchy stuff instead of the soft-bodied megalodons. What a sentence.
Number 2, the moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. See, moa, they were these flightless birds, massive, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave, just hidden in the very back, right in the depths. Its flesh and everything was still attached. See, these ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison, but no, listen up. The birds stopped flying right after the dinosaurs went extinct. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University of Canberra, once the dinosaurs off, they now had freedom. They could go outside without having to make any daring escapes, right? They weren't terrified every day to be lunch. They walked around, they got fat, and they hung out in caves. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability to fly, but it's because they're eating good, you know? They're good problems, right? Scientists have recently discovered moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so there's a possibility we might see these fatties hit the skies once again. Let's keep them on Weight Watchers this time around, you know? Let's keep them in the sky, keep them.
Number 1, Europterid. Long story short, an ancient huge sea scorpion. That's it. I'm done. No, I said no spiders, earwigs, and scorpions. No, that's it. An extinct group of arthropods that formed 470 million years ago, with 250 species of its own, the Euripidid is the most diverse Paleozoic class of its time. This is like the first of the creepy crawly stinger pincher things, you know? They declined in numbers and diversity until becoming extinct during the Triassic extinction event about 250 million years ago. Yeah, thank God. I can't even put a crayfish on a hook without squirming. Called sea scorpions, of course, because of 2 qualities. Being able to go in and out of water, and having 2 sets of lungs. Yeah, this thing's a fossil, right? This thing just got way more terrifying. They are the largest known arthropods ever to have lived on Earth, ranging anywhere between 1 foot and 4 feet big. That's a longboard, Taylor. A skateboard with claws and pinchers and a tail, in and out of the water. Alright, the animal kingdom. How beautiful.